Hi, y'all. I'm Shannon Mitchell, a Black millennial entrepreneur and Amazon bestselling publisher, author, and all-natural product manufacturer. I'm a champion for your natural self-care, sustainable business care, and overall intentional wellness.
Hey, y'all. I'm Christine Gautreaux, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, embodied coach, and Amazon bestselling publisher and author, and a dancing social worker who helps you upgrade yourself and community care.
Together, we are a podcast rooted in the 8 dimensions of wellness and the co-founders of the Women Connected in Wisdom community.
And we like to get together every week for intentional conversations about how to be wise in business, relationships, and wellness. And we also get the privilege of talking to some incredible expert guests that help us with all this. How do we do this? How do we figure this out? This thing called life.
Right. And especially socially, especially as women doing different things.
How are you, my friend?
Grateful. Tired. We've been saying tired. I'm more energized than I've been. It's getting good, right? But excited to be here and celebrating this 169. I love seeing the numbers tick up and think about the impact and the opportunities that we've had and the amazing women we get to talk about. I get excited about it.
Right? Me too. There is a tiny hint of fall in the air here in Atlanta, Georgia today, which also makes me excited and energized.
Yeah.
I'm not quite ready to let go of the pool, but boy, it was lovely. I was walking near the Chattahoochee today with Merlin. Not Merlin. That's my old dog. Holy cow, Monty. Sorry,
Shout out
Monty.
to Merlin.
Shout out to Merlin, old Monty. And he was so excited. The dogs at the park were just like, oh my gosh, fall's here. We're like, this is the false fall, y'all. We're in Georgia.
You're ready. Okay, here we go with the waves.
Don't get too high.
Stay hydrated, right? Vitamin C, kombucha,
right?
Ready. Save your chicken wing bones, right, for the bone broth,
right?
And yeah, I hear you. And shout out to Monty too.
Right.
Oh, and
go ahead.
What were you gonna say?
I was going to say big shout out to Joe, my sweetheart and husband of 30 years, because today's his birthday.
Happy birthday, Joe.
Happy birthday, Joe. And he is one of maybe 4 people who have listened to all of the Women Connected in Wisdom episodes. So we got to give him a huge shout out.
Thank you so much, Joe.
We may have more listeners out there that I don't know about that listen to them all, but we know he's one of them. So
if you're one of them, put it in the comments. Let us know. We will shout you out. Let us include you, right? Let us know how you've been enjoying Women Connected in Wisdom. And we know we would not be here without Joe. So definitely going to give him a moment and celebrating our guys that support us, being wise, being women, doing what we do, because it's a thing, and they're here. They deserve to be celebrated. I was listening to this human design YouTube, right? And it was talking about assertiveness and how manifestors use their voices. And as women, that could be a thing that we work through figuring out, right? She was talking about how she wore so many hats, and that's all of us wearing different hats at different times. And for me, it's been really interesting figuring out, kind of just like the music, how we do it at the beginning, when to raise my voice and when to lower it. When I'm a kitchen manager and I'm lead kitchen manager and it was a closing shift, now mine is the loudest. The general manager is not here right now. I am the general manager, to being a server and knowing how to communicate that. Same thing between us and the different ways we've gone through different projects and stuff. So I get how it can be difficult to figure out how assertive to be in this situation and how to have confidence and still be respectful in this situation and the ebb and flow of everything we deal with. What do you think about that?
Well, what's really coming top of mind today, of course, because we're in Georgia, and there has been another tragic school shooting. And I think about for women, but I think about also for our young men. And I'm not sure who the suspect is, but 2 students were killed and 2 teachers were killed, and like 9 people injured about an hour north of us in Winder, Georgia. And I think about social wellness, and we are just a couple of weeks into school, right? And what must have been going on, like emotionally and especially, and I can completely get off on gun laws and all of that because I believe we need policy change. But I just think about how unwell we are in our country right now, that these shootings keep happening to our children.
Right. Yes. Yes. And, I wanted to take a moment of silence and give space for it. And before we do, I want to add that's why through life transitions and emergencies around the world and flat tires and accidents and hospitalizations and all these things, I believe it's worth us having the weekly conversations and talking about wellness and the self-care and the community care, because these are real life situations, and they're difficult to navigate sometimes. So
Yeah,
let's take a moment.
I agree. Yeah, let's just take a few deep breaths in a moment and check in with ourselves and our bodies with that news. So, just really, I am so sad, right? I just think about, I don't know if Coach Co's listening today, one of our teachers that often listens. And, I found out today because my sister in Colorado was reaching out to make sure me and all my people were okay. And, oof.
Yeah,
Yeah.
shout out to Katie and the check-in. That's so important,
Right.
And when we talk about social wellness and we talk about women connected, those sisters in your circle, biological or not, right, that know, hey, this is relevant in this way. Let me tap in, It's the beginning of the school year. My friend was talking about being sick, and of course, and we've been working on getting my goddaughter into kindergarten, and all the moms know I hadn't thought about this stuff, the difficulties and the pre-work that you have to do and all this stuff, right? But yep, every school year, let's be early for the immune setup, early for the vitamin C. I see our guest saying yes, yes, and excited to get you up here so we can have this conversation, right? But how do you stay ahead of that and know just what to expect, right? And this is why I'm excited to have this conversation about confidence and assertiveness, because sometimes it can feel defeating, right? Like, dang, this happened. This is where I'm at. But if you know what the ebbs and flows of things like this can happen. And when things like this happen, what do you need? Pull out this toolbox,
Right.
And I was writing my list of gratitudes for the podcast this morning. And that's one of my favorite things about what we're doing is that not a mom yet, but when I am, I have all these different resources and experts in all these different areas, and it's that for a list of different life experiences. And that's the reality of what we're going to need. So, yes.
Right. It's true. It's true. Yeah. Well, do you want me to give our listeners the definition?
Yes. And after you do that, I'll go ahead and read our bio for our expert and have the full conversation that we've been looking forward to.
Let's do it. So today, y'all, we're talking about social wellness. Social wellness is about the ability to nurture ourselves, others, and our relationships with healthy boundaries. It includes, and we always put it in quotes, balancing the other 7 dimensions of wellness and actively participating as an interdependent being in the web of life. Yeah, it's a big, tall order.
Right? No, it really is. Each dimension by itself, you throw the other 7, it's like, what? No wonder it feels like a whirlwind a lot.
Right. I want to
But
say that first line again. Like,
please.
it's about the ability to nurture ourselves, others, and our relationships with healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And okay, so let's pause real quick. And what do you think? Usually we break down what came up for us. Do you want to stay here for a second before we bring our guest on, or do you want to go ahead into expert? How are you feeling? I want to give you some space.
I think we bring Talia up because I
Okay.
want to have the full conversation with her.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Okay, y'all. So super excited to have this conversation. Talia Bombola, the confidence and assertiveness specialist, is a certified psychodynamic, licensed psychotherapist and relationship mentor for women. Her work centers around helping anxious women feel secure by increasing self-worth, confidence, and assertiveness, and rewiring beliefs about themselves, men, and relationships. She helps you heal the, quote, not enoughness that is blocking you from living a life overflowing with satisfaction and self-worth. Help us welcome to the stage Talia Bambola. Hi, Talia. Welcome to the table.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes. Do you have any? Go ahead. Go ahead,
Oh,
Christine.
I was just going to say, I'm so excited to have this conversation because I think that not enoughness is such a core thing for so many people. And especially when we talk about social settings and healthy relationships. And so I'm just so excited you're here.
Thank you. I'm excited as well. It's a great opportunity, especially this platform with being able to speak directly to women. Obviously, I'm sure there's male listeners, of course, but being able to speak directly to the people that I'm able to help on a daily basis is a gift. It's like what keeps me going on the podcast side of things. So thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes. So when you think about speaking to the women and what we've been talking about, the not enoughness, what comes up for you first?
So what comes up for me first is something I think is an important part of the foundation of where that not enoughness feeling comes from. Most everyone is able to point to some experience in their upbringing, whether that's in their childhood family home or from their childhood or adolescence and early experience, where they can pinpoint, oh yeah, that's where it all started. And it may not be like it was a crisp Tuesday in fall. Like it doesn't need to be the exact chronological day, but there was an incident, there was an occurrence, there was a missed opportunity for validation or for somebody to praise what you were proud of that you were bringing to them of like, mom, look what I did, or dad, look at this. And there was a missed connection. And I think many of those added up can lead to an impacted feeling of that not enoughness. The core part of it comes from, if we're looking at developmental psychology, the core part of that comes from our early years, from about 0 to 5, where we're supposed to develop trust, but some of us develop mistrust. We're supposed to develop autonomy, but some of us develop shame and doubt. And we're supposed to develop initiative and a deeper sense of autonomy, but some of us develop an inferiority. So when we're looking at ideal or optimal psychological development, it's really those formative years that make the biggest difference, which unfortunately is when a lot of parents are like, they're young, they're never going to remember this. And I'm like, au contraire, they will actually have their foundation set for their belief in themselves and others based on these few years. So we may want to tune in the most then, and then let our foot off the gas as they get older and be more of that kind of fence around the field that they're cognitively exploring. So I like to set that in the beginning as the foundation. This is not a fault, and it was probably not an intentional misgiving of your parent or whoever created this inside of you. There's a mismatch of, because confidence is defined as that firm trust in yourself and that firm belief in who you are and who you're not. And that assertiveness is the ability to be kind and direct with others without intentionally hurting their feelings. So that's why my specialty is both, because it helps to stave off that feeling of not enoughness. You are enough, period. You are enough, fill in the blank, is also something I work on with my clients. It's not about what you do and what you've accomplished that makes you enough. It's feeling that inherent sense of self-worth as a person, that you have worth and value. All the other stuff you can put on top of it might make you have certain accolades or might make you view yourself a specific way or others view you a specific way, but we can't bank on others filling our enoughness cup. That's also where the not enoughness comes from, is relying on external validation.
Because that bank doesn't translate the same to your actual bank, your self-love tank, and that's what I was thinking about this week, Jenna Love and her power tank. You have to actually be filled up. And yeah, when we talk about psychodynamic therapy and how to really get to the root of what we're talking about, we talk to change makers, right? Leaders, women and men. That's what we're talking about. And we still see these high performers not okay. And so how do we bridge that gap, what we're talking about right now, and having a firm belief in who you are and who you're not? I love how you said that.
It's just as important to know what we're not about. I've given this exercise to the clients I've worked with on other podcasts. If you write down on a sheet of paper who you know yourself to be, or if others described you as that, it feels congruent. Like, oh yeah, that's who I am. Who you're definitely not. Like no one would ever describe me as meek. And if somebody did, the person you've not met the real Talia then. Like, Talia, what are you talking about? Who are like the bad self traits? Not that we're going into the shame and guilt, but like what are some traits about you that you either wouldn't want others to discover or that you've worked on that you still wouldn't want them to discover? And then the ideal self. Ideally, I'm striving for this. I would like to be more of this. I have this trait, but I want it to show more. So once you kind of quadrant yourself, as I call it, then you get a deeper sense of self, who you are and who you are not. And you can start to use that plus your core values to filter decisions you make. Then you really do start to feel like you are enough because you're living a life that's in alignment with who you truly are, who you want to be, where you're going, not for everybody else. Carl Jung says indirectly, loosely rather translated, that we spend the first half, no time specific amount, first half of our life being who everybody else wants us to be. And then the second half of our life being who we're really meant to become and who we've been all along. And that's my job as a therapist and a coach, to help clients get to that point and feel confident enough in that version of themselves and assertive enough to stand up for that version of themselves. It may mean you lose some relationships, but like we talked about a little off air, sometimes the healthiest relationships are the ones that we end up losing.
Mm-hmm. And what's your definition of lose?
I would say it's a personal gain, ironically. So when a relationship ends, it's not a failure. Failure means unsuccessful attempt. So by that literal definition, I would still say it's a successful attempt. You gave it your all for the most part. If you can say you showed up, you played, the full court, you played the whole field, and you were like, I did. It's two people, though, in a friendship or a romantic relationship or a family. We can at best influence, but we definitely can't control another person. Heck, sometimes we can't even control ourselves. So let alone another person. We have to understand that losing somebody might mean a personal gain of our peace, our sanity, our joy when we walk in the door, that we don't have whatever energy weighing us down. And loss can come in different forms. Loss can come from someone literally passing away. Loss can come from choosing to not continue the relationship. And loss can come from, we're not as close. Now we have boundaries. Now we're not as enmeshed. Now I don't share certain things, or I share more of how I'm feeling instead of being a doormat and a people pleaser. So it's more of a maybe transformation of a relationship that is more all encompassing than just loss itself.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And Talia, we were talking before the show a little bit about, and I would love to dive into it, because when we talk about not enoughness in social media and social wellness, and how do you see that impacting your clients and women's lives?
So one of my favorite quotes comes from Twitter, and I don't know the person's real name, but I'll try to find the handle and then send it to you both after. It's we're not supposed to know this many people exist, let alone their thoughts. And that is probably the most true thing I've heard when it comes to social media. It's not to say that everybody is not entitled to their opinion. Everybody is entitled to their opinion. Does it mean it's well-founded? Does it mean it's helpful? Does it mean it's kind? Is it self-serving? Like, just because it's an opinion doesn't mean it's an ultimate truth. An opinion is something you choose based on facts that you've garnered, hopefully, or just what feels right. And so it's not going to be like one person's opinion of me might not be everybody's. Now, there's something to be said in social media, right? Because we have more public pages or what have you. If the feedback more often than not is so-and-so is fill in the blank, and you look at your piece of paper of how you describe yourself, then someone's opinion of you might be congruent. Like, oh, that person's so funny. I strive to be funny. They're experiencing me as funny. Great. That's what I'm hoping for. So sometimes we see that on social media, and it's a positive, like a one up in the relationship, or a one up for yourself of like, oh, this is a good thing. Like, I would score that an emotional bank account. This is a deposit, not a withdrawal.
Right.
However, a lot of the clients I work with are having the withdrawal effect on the social media, where it's taking from their emotional bank account. It's draining them because they're not being experienced the way that they want, or they're being experienced in a way that is so incongruent and so inauthentic, and they're comparing themselves to other people. They're striving to be, when in reality, no one has, as far as I know, unless you're on reality TV, you don't have a director, you don't have a first-hand, second-hand cameraman, like no one's scripting your life, and you're comparing it to what's so cookie cutter and picture perfect. I think that creates an unattainable reality that people strive for. Like, I want to see the nitty gritty. Great that you've been together 5 years. Tell me your worst fight. Like, that's just how I am as a person. I'm like, well, that's great for you that you have an anniversary and he put the rose petals, but like, did you have to ask, or did he intuit that? How many years did you spend with? Right? Like, I want to know what led to that moment. I see it. I would love to see that behind the scenes. And I appreciate on social media when people are more real. That's something I personally hold myself to. I strive within reason, obviously with therapeutic boundaries. I strive to be authentic. I may not share all parts of my life. I'm pretty open though. I share what I'm comfortable with. And if there's something that I don't want known, it's not that I'd be ashamed of it. It's just, it wouldn't be helpful for clients to know about it. It would probably get in the way of therapy. So that's a unique example of like not being fully congruent on social media. But a lot of people who post, they're coming out of their own not enoughness subconsciously, and they're trying to put others down to be like, look at what I can do. Look what I've done. Look at me. And if the intent is, look at me, I'd like to help you. I've actually, like, weight loss pages are a great example. I was in this miserable place is usually the starting point. They hit some sort of rock bottom or something traumatic happened to them. They realized enough is enough. I need to make healthful changes for myself and invest in my own self-care. And they make a transformation. I appreciate the pages that are like, this took 7 years. I've had loose skin surgery. I've had bariatrics. Like, being honest about a transformation journey helps others to feel like they actually could achieve that if they wanted to, or that it's what they're doing is not enough. If you're going through a 6 months transformation and it's all surgical, that's not going to help me in the gym. Like, I want it to be real. And if you do get, so I've had surgery, like if you do get surgery, be honest about it. There's nothing to be ashamed of. You're just sharing a part of the journey. So it's being able to be open and authentic about the whole journey, not to put others down, but to help guide others. Like, this could be possible. It'll look different, but this could be possible for you too, if it's used as inspiration rather than a comparison.
Yes. And I love what you said. And I know you saw me shake my head. For our listeners who are watching, I wanted to be specific that, especially as business owners, right, and leaders, this is where it's like the thin hairs of the shoulds, and I don't think that it is incongruent. If you say, hey, this part is not healed yet, or it's none of your business. Exactly. So I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to talk about it on these platforms. And that's to make sure that it's a balanced and a healthy relationship. I remember when one of my college professors said that she could never have us as one of her clients. And I was shocked and disappointed because Professor Benjamin was amazing, right? Like, professor in multiple, in psychology and my minor African diaspora studies. I was her teacher's assistant. I said, you telling me I can't continue this relationship, but it made sense, the boundary of it. And you got to make sure it's both for the social wellness. So it makes, it makes sense. What do you think, Christine?
I agree with what you said. And I was just thinking about, that dance we do often as business owners and social media. And like, there's sometimes our listeners know, like, my year has just been intense, and I have not been able to be as present as I want to be with a lot of my relationships and friendships, just because of how much caregiving and grief and loss has been going on. And it's always fascinating to me. Social media is just, I am of the age, y'all, and I think we've talked about this on the show before, but like, computers just came out when I was in high school. Like, I learned how to code my name, and the name scrolled 1,000 times. And like, I mean, I know of a world before social media. And I think about now, like, funny story, not so funny, because, we always joke about trolls, and when we get trolls, and block and delete and healthy relationships. I had posted something. I was watching the DNC, and I was inspired by something I saw. It was about a policy change that Kamala was talking about. And I shared it on my stories. And this was not Women Connecting Wisdom. This is just my personal account. And somebody that I follow, white male, proceeded to get in my DMs and tell me that I was an idiot. And I was like, oh, hello, sir, block and delete. And I'm sad to miss your recipes, because I know that's why I was following you. But no, thank you.
Love has got to be included in the recipe, okay?
But I'm like, first of all, like, who are you that you think you can call me a name? And
I didn't invite your opinion.
That doesn't sound like brilliant to me.
And also, I think about, and I don't know if this is true or not for other business owners, but like, when I think about my personal account, I kind of think about it being my living room and my yard. Like, this isn't what you welcome to a little bit of my life. Welcome to, Women Connecting Wisdom. Welcome to my business. And these are my colleagues and collaborators and things like that. So I post differently on them. But any of them, like, you're coming into our space and we're from the South. So it's like, I need you to mind your manners. Like, you can disagree with me. You can say I have a difference of, but you walk into my living room and call me an idiot? No, thank you.
Turn it around.
Let them know, ladies.
Right? I mean, I'm just like, what in the world? And that's what I think about when I think about social wellness in social media, especially, is that I think people don't mind their manners sometimes because I don't know if it's I don't know what it is that they think they can just, I mean, in some ways, what we've seen the last couple of years, I mean, people show you who they are. I mean, that is the gift of it. Like, thank you for telling me exactly who you are. Bye.
Yeah. I think there's a loss of humanity when the screen gets involved. And that's the case for almost any connection-based app, dating app, social media app. And that's what the Social Network on Netflix talked about is, we were just trying to have people be able to share photos. We didn't mean for people to kill themselves. Like, they weren't expecting it to get to that point with cyberbullying and what have you. With every good invention, if you're not fully looking at all the third variable problems, there can be some nasty outcomes. When a screen gets involved, there's a level of false confidence and bravado that comes over people because they could say things they would hopefully never say to someone's face and walk away, literally and figuratively, just set the device down, go live their life, and have an alter ego where they feel, again, a false sense of protection that allows them to tap into, look, everybody, if they were pushed to a certain point, we know this from certain psychological studies before the IRB was involved and regulated a lot of this. We did get a lot of good data about the very unethical studies. So 1 point for that, but 2 points for Gryffindor when it comes to, like, we needed to shape that up because participants were being left in shambles and there was no debrief. Like, again, out of a lot of these bad ideas, we got good ideas and we had shored up ethics afterwards. But we know when people are pushed to certain levels, they will behave more violently when there's an authority figure telling them to do so, or when they feel like there's going to be no punishment or consequence. That's why the movie The Purge is so enticing to people. Not that any one person watching is like, I would do exactly that, but we all do have a dark side and a shadow. Like,
everybody has a list of houses. What's your list of houses that you think about when
we didn't admit that? And when we have morals, when we have a conscience, when we have social values, when we have a support system, when we have a internal knowing of right and wrong, we don't act on those things. And I think we've lost the art of teaching people, you can think pretty much, I mean, no thought is illegal. It's when you act on it that it becomes that. Some might be messed up, but that's your own personal play space up here. As long, like, and I joke with some people when they've made comments on my stuff, I'm like, that was an inside thought. Like, you just made a comment on the internet for all the people to see. Like, that should have stayed right up here. Nobody would have known. Just scroll past. And I can't expect everyone to use social media or other apps the way that I do. I have a certain code of ethics, not just for my profession, but as a human, as Talia, that I follow. I don't expect everybody to follow that. It's nice if they do, right? It's beneficial if they do, but that's not going to necessarily be the case. To your point, Christine, people hide behind that and they feel like there's no harm, no foul. They have no clue how cutting words can be on the other side of the screen. And as someone who grew up without social media and then was on like AOL Instant Messenger or what have you, cyberbullying can be very terrible. And I experienced it myself when I was growing up, and it landed me in therapy because I was suicidal in middle school because I felt so outcast, so ostracized, such a mistrust in my friend groups that people not only to my face were talking about that, but then talking about me behind my back, then you can't escape it because once you leave school, you're right on your computer. There's a level of humanity and consciousness, like being conscientious of others and how you are affects others, that gets lost. And I think we see that generationally, we're losing touch with that. And we're losing touch with the ability to have a healthy relationship on social media because people think it's the Wild West and there are no rules and you can say whatever you want. Not so, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I agree with you. I think the only thing I would add to that, and Talia, I'm so sorry you went through that. Like, my daughter went through some of that too. And I think the other thing that added to it is these, like, Find My Friends and the apps. Like, when I was growing up, if you weren't invited to a party, you might have known, you might not have known. But probably not. Yeah. But now, like,
your face.
It's an in your face thing, and the isolation and the loneliness. And I think that goes to the comparison thing. You know, Shannon and I often, we've the quote of, comparison is the thief of joy, right? And that social media lends itself to that, about comparing ourselves. And how, when you work with clients about confident and assertiveness, how do you get them out of that? Like, if we have a listener that's listening either for themselves or for their child, how do you shift that for somebody?
Out of the comparisonitis? One of the first things that I do is I have them tell me how they're currently using social media, not only the specific apps, but in what manner are they using it? Are they reaching for it when they're feeling low self-esteem? Are they reaching for it when they're uncomfortable in public and they don't want to strike up a conversation with someone, so they'd rather just go on their phone? So I try to understand what apps and for what purpose, and from there come up with like a mini treatment plan, if you will, to help them to not utilize it as much for self-soothing and not utilize it for comparison.
Hey, y'all, this is a great place to take a break, take a deep breath, and hear from our awesome sponsors that make Women Connected in Wisdom podcast possible. Shannon, we are so grateful that Shayla Glow is the sponsor of the Women Connected in Wisdom podcast. And I wanted to take this moment to ask you, when you think about the people who use Shayla Glow, who are we talking about?
That's a good question. I think about three groups, really. One, the group that's removing hair, right? So whether you're using laser hair removal, waxing, shaving, you got to make sure that you're putting back what you're taking out. The second group, I think about those with dry skin and the problems that might cause, right? The scars, itching, burning, whatever the situation is, you definitely need all three steps, right? The exfoliation, making sure you're taking the dead skin cells off. The oil, putting in the moisture, and then the shea butter with the aloe, sealing it, helping you heal. Those things help both groups, right? And third, for the third group is those with chronic illness. You know, the story is personally from cancer and different diseases that our population is dealing with on a daily basis throughout families as individuals. So I'm thinking about my mom and my grandmother and those around me with the same generational ties, right? And what positive, healthy habits we can start to make sure that we're maintaining our wellness, especially because the skin is like the cape, the exterior, the shield for your immune system. So with COVID, we have to be intentional about covering ourselves. And those are the groups I think about.
I love it. And you know what else I love about your product? It's all natural, handmade, and it smells great, y'all. So yay.
Tested. Yes, esthetician tested and approved. Yes. What about you? When you think about your company, what groups of people do you think about?
Well, you know, I work with individual coaching clients. I work in community classes and with corporate teams. And with all of them, I use a strength-based, embodied approach to help folks connect with themselves and access joy, reduce burnout, and build resilience. You know, especially during these times, I think we need it. I think we need all the hashtag partnership power we can get.
Yes.
Like there's times where I've been at the gym and there's a few pages I followed fitness wise that they post videos. I like more of the tough love when I'm working out. Like I listen to weekly motivation. I listen to music too, but I like the David Goggins, like the ones that are like, do it better, try harder. Like for me, it just works. It doesn't make me feel worse. If anything, it motivates me to push through to get that adrenaline rush. That's not so for everyone. There are some people who listen to classical music. There's some people who listen to podcasts or Disney, like whatever helps you get there. I'm a big fan of it as long as it doesn't hurt other people. Right. That's my preference. So I use that as an example when I'm talking to my clients and I say, you know, that helps me to compare myself to who I want to be. And that's the only type of comparison I want to do is how could I be better? And I have to mitigate that. It's not like I'm trying to optimize every single day in all areas of my life, right. But the gym is a great example because you can have a workout plan, meal plans. You can have a meal plan. How do I want to feel? What do I want to look like internally and externally? So you work yourself to it. So I try to channel their comparison to others for a comparison inward of how much better could I get at this? So it's more of my own self than I'm comparing to my most optimized self. And then eventually they don't need that comparison. It's like a half step. They don't need it because they've either become that or they've let go of like, I'm okay as I am. I don't actually, if I get there, great. But if not, the journey along the way is totally worth it.
Right. Oh, I love that. I love that. I want to lift up a comment that Courtney said.
We
said
see you, Code.
Yeah, it said it was hard for me to accept that my friends used to party without me at times, but I realized that like-minded people flock together, and clearly there were some areas where we just weren't on the same page.
Yeah. And that's okay. You know, I love that one of my friends, we were talking about middle school, she taught me that things are a reason, a season, and a lifetime, you know, and I noticed later I was trying to make everything lifetime things. And most things are not, you know, and it is some people you do business with, some people you go on vacation with, some people you go to church and brunch with, like whatever it is that you like. And my best friend, I could do everything and nothing with, you know, and different people sometimes fall into different categories. And when we talk about confidence, what I think that's helped me so much is being mindful of when the circle changes and when the season changes. So now I need different things, you know, and not saying that these people are expendable and see you later. I don't need you anymore, but it just kind of shifts, you know, where we are and the time that we spend, because we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. And based on, you know, us being intentional about knowing where we are, knowing who we want to be, it's really important that you know what those things look like so you know where you're going.
Yeah. I think Courtney said again, it took long to learn that. That's same for me too. I think we get sold a trope. It's the same in romantic relationships, the Disney, it's going to be perfect. You have a meet cute, then you're literally together forever and there's nothing wrong that goes on and you live in a white fence for 50 years. Like you could have a marriage that lasts 50 years and be miserable at what cost? Like it's not an endurance event. Like great. That's great that you had it last 50 years. But if you're miserable, is it really worth that it's been 50 years? Wouldn't you rather have had like a great 2-year marriage than a miserable 50-year one?
Yes. I want to that point, Talia, I was reading something just the other day, because I come from a family who stay married for a long time, and some of them shouldn't. And but what came up, I was reading an article about our grandmothers, our great-grandmothers, even sometimes our mothers. The reason they stayed married wasn't because it was all perfect. It was because what we talk about on the show, just 50 years ago, women could get their own credit card. Or they could, so a lot of times it was financial. Like it was not about the love. It wasn't about the love, right?
But they told us, because maybe sometimes they write generational stories. They were sold or told, that is what it is. That's what we stick it out and we this. And so that trope of you stay together and you don't, tough times don't last. Tough people do. That's what I got from my family of origin, the messaging, which I agree in some cases, though there are some tough times where I'm like, this is really lasting, Dad. You told me that they don't last, but this tough time it feels like it's really lasting. Of course, years later, you put it in perspective, but there's a message that we receive that it's like, you have to stick it out. It is an endurance event and tough through it, like be forgiving, be this, but there was less opportunity. This might be more of like a sociological perspective. There was less opportunity to meet someone new back then. And there was less opportunity to leave if you weren't happy. So those two things mixed. So like a lack of opportunity mixed with a lack of freedom to be able to leave, mixed with, oh, I now have all of these opportunities at my fingertips because of dating apps, social media. It's this false sense of availability, or false sense of my dating pool would be so much better if I weren't with you. We're at this weird convergence in society, and have been for the last 5 or 10 years as these apps have been more finely tuned. I think they have a lot more to go, that I didn't think I could leave. Now I can leave. And now I'm going to leave anyone just because I think I can get it better elsewhere. It's too much scaling and too much escalation. It's far more important, I think, to have your deal breakers lined out of both friends and romantic relationships. And as long as those things aren't happening, then yes, stick it out. Yes, be loyal. Yes, have that. But I personally, and I know a lot of the other clients I've talked to, they weren't told that delineation. It was just, the reason why you get to 50-year marriage or a 50-year best friendship is because you basically accept being treated like crap, or you accept so much disrespect and they basically treat you like however you want and you can't leave, and like, here's for loyalty. But again, at what cost? And now people don't need a relationship to be financially successful. Many women are more financially successful when they're independent, to be honest. Like, marriage does not benefit. This might be very contrarian coming from a marriage therapist. Marriage does not benefit successful women. It limits us. It limits our earning potential, especially if we end up choosing to have a family. And that limit, or that shift, can be welcomed. It could be like, I don't want to do that anymore. And then it does benefit a successful woman. But if we're going it under the guise, oh, this is going to be true love forever and we're never going to have a hardship and they're going to be there for me through thick and thin, that isn't always the case. And sometimes the reason why you would choose to marry yourself or be best friends with yourself is not the reason why the person who married you chose, or why the person who's keeping you in their life as their best friend or close friend has chosen. And we assume, we incorrectly as humans project other people think the same way that we do. We think men think the same way as women. We think our friends think the same way as us. Everybody has their own rich intrapsychic field. And we do get along, like you're saying, average of 5 people, with people who think similarly, but we're usually incorrect in assuming somebody thinks and does things for the exact same reason we do. We have to verify those assumptions in order for a lasting relationship to be fulfilling. I'm all the fan of the 50-year marriage if it's healthy. If it's not healthy, we need to set those boundaries. We need to be confident we could find someone else if we wanted that as a goal. Sometimes I want to be with instead is me.
Hello.
Be with somebody else. I just want
it
to
over here
myself.
It's cozy,
right?
Food, candles.
Yeah.
Talia, I love this real talk coming from a licensed marriage and family therapist. I have a curiosity, especially around friendships and healthy relationships, because I don't think we talk about it enough. Like, I don't think we talk about it, whether it's a collaboration or a friendship or, so what are your tips for folks for like even opening that conversation or having, like you said, I think I heard you say non-negotiables.
Yes. Deal breakers.
Deal breakers. So set our listeners up. Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So I recommend when you're in a non-activated state. So if you're looking romantic relationship wise, ideally when you're single, or if you're in a current romantic partnership, when there's no recent conflict or you're not weighing the pros and cons. So neutral, non-activated state. Same thing with friendships. You can do the exercise, keeping in mind friends you enjoy spending time around, friends that fill your cup up metaphorically. And from that state, you write down, if anyone did this, including yourself, you got to put yourself on the list too, like these actions are intolerable and the relationship would not be able to continue with any or the same amount of respect, loyalty, trust, the foundations of what people mostly value when they're connecting to someone romantically or platonically, that they would not put up with that no matter who it was. And the key of doing this in a non-activated state holds you accountable so that when you do become activated, when your best friend of 10 years does that thing they always do and they're running late and it costs you a lot, whatever resource you're looking at cost-wise, it's upsetting. But do you let that slide because you've been best friends for 10 years? And then I ask the question on the list, like, if you met them now, not any history, if you met them now, would you still be in the relationship of whatever type you're currently in? And most of the time people go, oh, no, I'm just holding on to it because I've held on to it. And like, just because you had something doesn't mean you need to keep having something. So I try to ask those questions to set the frame. What are your deal breakers? Is this something that you would tolerate only in certain friendships or relationships? And if so, why? Do some best friends, and this is the case that some people get different treatment. Like if my sibling were running late, I don't love it. And I'm very blunt with him, but I know that about him. And so if it's really important, I give him, and he knows this, I give him the wrong time on purpose, but he's well aware. And I explain to him, this is really important for me because of this reason. Again, best I can influence, I can't control. There's still some times that just flies through, but I don't take that personally. And if we're looking at the hierarchy of interpersonal relationships, in any situation, I would say self-respect is an absolute non-negotiable. Then you're kind of pushing the gas pedal on what's more important, maintaining this relationship or getting my objective met. And you can temper that. If I had a relationship, I give this example all the time, and my mail was getting delivered late, I don't know the mailman. I'm sure they're a very nice person. They rotate constantly. That's not the gas pedal I'm going to push, is trying to maintain the mailman liking me or mailwoman liking me. I'm going to push my objective. Hey, this is the 9th time. I wouldn't even let it get to that, but like my mail has been late the last 3 weeks. Right. Do I need to contact the post office? Can you do that? Like, I wouldn't push as much on the relationship building skills of, are you having a tough time? What's going on for you? I don't care what's going on in their life. I care what's going on in my life, that my mail isn't getting delivered. But if my friend were bringing me something, I would be like, hey, you seem off the last few weeks. Is everything okay with you? I wouldn't care as much about what my objective was. I would care more about maintaining the relationship. And so that's kind of the three or four step system I give for people, and understanding that not everything, like you were saying, Shan, not everything's meant to be forever, but we get sold that. And also that was easier when people died at 50. like friendships and relationships when we were dying between 30 and 50 forever.
That makes sense.
5 years. Like we haven't aged in society.
Real talk.
Until 120. I think a 90-year relationship would probably put some people in the grave, to be honest. That's a long time.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
I was having a talk with a dear friend of mine that her parents, I think, are celebrating their, what did she tell me? I think it was their 60th wedding anniversary. It was either 60th or 70th. And she was trying to coach her dad on, this is a big deal. And I was like, heck yeah, it is. Because anybody that makes it that long, you need gold stars. To me, in my opinion, like,
that's impressive.
Like, it's really, that's a lifetime. Sometimes 2 lifetimes, right?
Yeah. Yes. So good. So good. And what came up for me, so many things. I love how you said, Talia, firm belief of who you are and who you're not. Can we go back there when we talk about confidence and assertiveness, right? And if I could, I want to give some context to include this other conversation, because I think that let's say it like this, it's been so surprising with us, with the 2 books that we've written, for it to be women from their 20s to their 80s to still sometimes need that push, like your voice matters, right? And again, your life is worthy, your experience is worthy. I love how you say on your stuff, lived and earned, right? I've gotten this experience a list of different ways to be confident and assertive where I'm at. And when I think about the first part, we talked about who you are. That can be trickier for some more than others, right? When we talk about going natural, we talked about hair and beauty a little bit earlier, I think. When I shaved my hair to go natural, because that's the whole thing with Black women, right? Natural and not natural. And even the products that were mandatory to use on our hair, we're now seeing cause cancer and all these things. But we knew that, right? That's the whole, this is part of the problem. So shaved my hair, didn't know what my curl pattern was going to look like. So when you talk about knowing yourself, how can you know yourself when you don't even know the whole picture of what's about to pop up in the mirror? It's like a video, you're waiting for them to come on screen and you don't know what you're going to see, right? And then I'm excited about some conversations, some guests that we have coming up, because we're talking about origin stories, right? And I'm in the process of getting my DNA test. I don't even know where my family is from, right? So you can guess, right? I have zero. I don't know. We're gonna figure out, right? So for me, when we talk about knowing who you are and where to come from and how to be confident, it's been my faith, right? Choosing, okay, you can choose, who do you want to be, right? What's gone on in your life? What happened when you were little to motivate the opportunities that you can help find solutions for? And it's things like this, getting people connected to the resource. So somebody that's there that feels like, and even people like older siblings who feel like they were never able to be the little girl. They always had to be responsible, right? If they don't feel like they can know who they are right now, because that's a lot of people with genealogy, how would you help a client with their confidence and assertiveness in the landscape that we find ourselves in right now?
Yeah, a great question. I really do recommend sitting down and doing that paperwork exercise with the quadrants. And from there, at least you have a decent rough draft of who you are, who you want to be, and then who you are not. Avoid areas where people paint you in that light, where people force you into that box, and where people don't allow who you know yourself to be to feel welcomed and to feel appreciated. And those are 2 emotions that more often than not, I recommend clients strive to feel with their authentic self. The most important person that needs to feel that is you. Like, as an individual, do I feel like I welcome myself? Do I feel like I am appreciative of myself? And from that platform, then I can teach the confidence and the assertiveness skills to step up to someone, even if it's family or in-laws or friends, that, well, we don't do that. And well, we do that in this family. So what do you want to do with that? And can you be kind? Obviously, I think respect is a huge piece of this. But again, self-respect is of the utmost importance. And if I need to set a boundary with an in-law or with a family member, and they might not like that, or they might view me in a different light, can I still be like, I've got me? And then you know what? Myself and my work that I've taken to get here to view myself in this way and how many hellholes I've had to climb out of to be proud of myself and lead others, it's not worth another person's opinion of me. You can talk all the crap you want behind my back. That says more about you than it does about me.
And they will.
Yeah, they will. And I think moving forward, assuming that people who are unkind behind your back and kind/nice and fake to your face are not people that you need to be spending any time around. Unfortunately, sometimes we don't know that until it's quote unquote too late. We don't know that until we have an attachment or a connection to them, at which point it is a painful decision to go, you don't accept me for who I am. You're wanting to see me for who I'm not. We can't continue either at all. We can't continue with the same frequency, or we can continue, but it's going to be fake pleasantries. And I am more disagreeable on the personality traits, the big 5. There's agreeableness and disagreeableness. I'm far more disagreeable than I am agreeable. I like flow. I'll go with the flow if it doesn't really matter to me, but the things I'm outspoken on, unless I have data that changes my mind, which I'm open to, you can't convince me out of it. Right. So it's not like I'm not movable, but for the purpose of you just want to be more comfortable by making me uncomfortable, or you want to shame me or talk about me in a bad way to make yourself feel more superior. I don't want to align with that. And I need to set a boundary. So it's you knowing who you are and who you aren't also informs and sets the tone for other people to even interact with you, if they even get to, and in what way, if they do get to.
Yeah. And for any listeners, and I love this question that we have, I see you, Co, we'll pull it up, that feel that way, that feel like some people still don't know what their hair texture looks like, right? Some people aren't going to get the hundreds and something dollar test right now to get the DNA. And I really love being able to uplift with what you're saying, because it has helped. Like, the thing is, are you taken care of, right? Are you very well taken care of? And are you able to thrive? Like, Christine and I is what we talked about and what you help your clients with.
Yeah.
Talia. So we have a question.
Oh, sure.
Co, we see you. She says, should you or should you not include labels when using the exercise, like job titles, birth order? My vote is, if you really want to break it down, tell me what you think, Talia. I would do position by position. When I wrote out like the vision for myself and the 8 dimensions of wellness and how I want to show up for my community, it was in different positions. It was as a romantic partner, as a business partner. What do you think, Talia?
Usually when I give the exercise, I recommend listing personality traits or traits like kind, shy, meek, aggressive, forgiving. So it's when I give the exercise to my coaching clients, they have like a list of traits. I'm sure you could Google or chat GPT it. It's not like proprietary information, like 500 top personality traits. So I recommend doing it from a trait basis. And then now with that question, I think it would be even more interesting to do like a traits one and then a new one with the roles. Like if your ideal self is a mother, I would definitely add that. I think this is a really insightful question. It gives me a lot to think about too, of maybe a secondary, like a 2A exercise of this, like what would you want the roles to be? And I do think for the question, there are times where birth order has a lot to do with that. I could do a whole episode on that. If that's part of your personality trait, part of your personality, think about the trait that comes out. Maybe you're a second sibling and you're shy. Maybe you're a second sibling and you're outspoken. Maybe you're the older sibling and you're hyper responsible, or you were parentified. I would, for the purposes of the initial exercise, write those traits. And if you want to put in parentheses because of why, I could write it there too. I think that's like a third way to do it.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love that. I just grabbed a 638 primary personality traits and put it in our show notes. So folks have a list that they can go off of. I was laughing because as you were talking about this, Talia, as you were talking about confidence and you were talking about ways for our listeners to, like build that in themselves. I have an app that I love on my phone called the I Am app because I'm all about affirmations.
Yeah.
And so I can't remember exactly what you were saying, but this is what popped up right when you were talking. It said, I owe it to Christine, because it's my app, right, to protect my mental health. And that includes avoiding stressful situations. I think you were talking about and I was laughing because I was like, perfect timing there. I Am app. Is that Big Brother listening? Or
Is target marketing at its finest, or did I just
right? Isn't it better? I don't know, but I love that app because you can also target it to what you're wanting to work on or what you're wanting support on throughout the day. Good. And yeah, it's super fun. Y'all, I am loving this conversation, and I am also paying attention to time. So before we go into our coffee and chat, not our coffee and chat, good gravy, Christine, our wisdom in action. Talia, do you have things coming up that folks need to know about or could reach out to you for support?
Yeah. So I have a course that I put together. I think it's called Evergreen. I made it where people can just get it whenever. It's not like a launch. Launches stress me out. I'm not that heady when it comes to that. So it's launched, it's live, and it's called Rewire Your Relationships. The most important one being the one you have with yourself. So in the door, people think, which is true, they will get a different relationship with their friends and romantic partner after it. But I really, once they're door in the face technique, it's like, well, the first relationship you have to change with yourself. They're like, dang it. But I already got it. So,
right?
I highly recommend that course because it goes over, it sounds like a lot of the dimensions that you ladies talk about on here. It really sets the foundation, why you are the way you are. Do you like yourself? Do you not like yourself? And in what ways can we modify that? Where did this come from in your family of origin? And then how do you go about transforming it in a way that actually lasts and isn't a Band-Aid solution? I want you to understand the fundamentals of human development and self-development. And from there, it's pretty much like this might be tooting my own horn, but it is like the only self-development course that you'll need because it includes therapeutic techniques. It's not a replacement for therapy, but it includes some therapeutic techniques, and it includes really a deep dive into your core traits, your parts work, your shadow, your ego, where are the wounds, your fear of abandonment. It really gives you a deep dive into why your psyche is the way it is, and hopefully how to change it. And if it comes up in relationships in a positive way, how to keep it going. And if it's sabotaging you, how to stop that pattern of self-sabotage.
Yes.
Oh, that is awesome. What a great resource. Can folks access it on your website at therapywithalia.com?
It's on my coaching website. So it's taliabombola.com/rewire your relationships. I think that's the URL.
Okay. And we will make sure that we put that in our show notes so folks can find it. So if you're driving and listening, you don't have to pull over. It's in the show notes on our website. Awesome.
Yes. And before the wisdom in action, Talia, I have one more question for you, for our listeners who have been super excited about how to do this in a healthy way, right? How to maintain confidence, how to be healthy and assertiveness. And I want to go to what you talk about, not being enough and being too much, because I think that our ladies are sometimes in both situations, depending on what's going on.
Mm-hmm. I would say the balance to strike between not enoughness and too muchness is that coming from your own internal voice, or is that only coming from stories that you've heard about yourself or from people telling you who you are in relation to their life? You could be not enough for somebody that you're then also too much for the next person. It's not using other people to guide how you feel about yourself. It's I'm enough as I am. I'm too much for the wrong people, and I might be not enough for people who aren't ready for all of me. And that's on them. I've been told I'm very, intense to date or tough to be in a relationship with, but I've had very serious long-term relationships. I was married. Like, I have all this evidence to be like, it's not that tough. Like, if enough people have figured it out, clearly can't be that difficult. And that says more about them, and not even in a negative way. That says a lot more about them and their desire for a relationship than it does about me. I've had friendships where they love the intensity and the deep dive conversations, and I have friends where it's very surface level. There's a place for both. So it's not vacillating between I'm too much and I'm not enough. It's being in the middle of, I know myself, I'm not everybody's cup of whiskey, and that's okay. And if you don't like whiskey, then you probably won't like being in a friendship or a relationship with me. And guess what? There's 8 billion other people that you'd like. So go find them and leave me to be enough as I am.
Right. Like social media, like we're not supposed to know this many people anyways. It's okay. Blocked and blessed. Like whatever makes sense. Yeah. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, love it.
All right, let's get to our wisdom in action.
All right.
Okay. Do you have your hashtag already, Christine? You want to go first or you want us to go first?
I think Talia goes first because I know she's got to jump in a few seconds. So every week we do a wisdom in action where we take our conversation and we hashtag it. So around social wellness, what's your wisdom in action this week?
In hashtag form?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Be brave and set the boundaries.
I love it.
I like it.
What you got, Shannon?
Let's see. Be brave and set the boundaries. Let's see. 2 seconds. Elay's know I take notes. Okay. I did have blocked and blessed down. And I think that's where I'm going to keep it. Because it's crazy. My block list is not long. And there was this whole situation. We're talking about trolls. And I said I was too nice. I just ignored it on my birthday. All she sent me was no. And I said, no, I say yes to myself. I'm not going to ignore this. And there was a whole nother situation. I said, I should have blocked it. And sometimes you're too nice. You give too much space. So I'm a blocked and stay blessed.
Good. Yeah, not everyone deserves to have access to all parts of you either.
No,
so
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
I love that.
What about
what is mine for this week? I think my hashtag is healthy boundaries. Yeah, it is just as simple as that. And the starting with myself about what do I need in this moment to know what those boundaries even are. Mm-hmm. So Talia, this has been such an awesome conversation. And I know you have to jump, but just so grateful.
Thank
so
you.
grateful for your work in the world and who you are. And we will put the links to your course in our show notes so our listeners can reach out to you. And we're just grateful to be connected. And thank you. Thank you for your work in the world.
Absolutely. Talk soon.
So good. Such a good conversation. And thank you, Coach Co, for being a part of it. Yeah, it's just good stuff. And Shannon, anything you want to add? Because I know I got to dance out of here pretty soon because I got a Zumba date with my husband for his birthday. So what you got? Anything we need to shout out before we close episode 169?
I think I want to ask you a question as we close, because I think that, again, you talked about our listeners, right? If they know the story, and I know for me, this was like a pivotal point, right? Of getting back home, feeling myself again. What are my routines? Trying to establish it after my mom transitioned, right? So when we talk about confidence, because it doesn't have to be assertiveness right now where you are. How are you doing with making art of grieving and your confidence level when you're doing stuff and able to celebrate? What is it that's helping you right now? Because I think a lot of our listeners are in that season too.
Right. Yeah, I don't really struggle with the confidence part, but I always go back to my practices. I go back to nature. Like last weekend, I went to the woods. I was camping at the Smoky Mountains, and I go back to the things that nurture my soul. Because when I start with self-care in order to thrive in community care, it works for me. And so I think that's what I'm doing is I'm going back to what are the things I know work for me that, I've been pouring out for the last 3 years easy and the last year intensely. So really going back to that is time to refill my bucket, and my bucket has a few holes in it. So patching the bucket and then filling it up with nature and art and good books and good conversations and all those things. And thanks for asking. What about you?
Of course. And I think that it's been that, I think that gaining that skill in that season for me and seeing that it wasn't a one-time use and you get rid of it. It's, in every season, after every big project, after every big transition, either me or, professionally. And Co says, proud of you, Christine. Yes.
Thanks, my friend.
How proud of you we are. That is what helps. And I think that'll help our listeners, as we close. If you find yourself not having the confidence to be confident or to be assertive, that going back to what nourishes your soul. And when you're by yourself, what makes you feel safe? What makes you feel poured into? And doing that after every difficult conversation, after every difficult first time of trying something, helps give you that confidence to keep going. So I also want to give a little space because she hit on suicidal ideation, and it is Suicide Prevention Month, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, when I think about this conversation, I think about space to ask for help. And these tools will help with that, ladies. So ladies and gentlemen, whoever is listening, everybody who continues to listen, thank you so much for being here for episode 169, as we talked about confidence and assertiveness and healthy relationships. And happy birthday again to Joe. I hope you guys have fun dancing tonight.
Right. Yeah. And we will also put in our show notes helplines for with you bringing up suicidal ideation, and know that you can reach out for help, and you don't have to do this by yourself, right? That reach out, and that you are loved and cared for.
Yes.
So yeah.
Thank you for being here. All right, y'all, we will be back live at 5 to wrap season 20. Not the wrap, but it is the last episode before the wrap. Okay, so be there if you've been with us. If not, subscribe so that you can get the notifications. And in the meantime, don't forget,
be well,
be wise, and be whole. We'll talk to you next week. Peace.
Thanks for listening. This has been the Women Connected in Wisdom podcast. On air live on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern via Facebook and YouTube. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Be part of the conversation and get connected at womenconnectedinwisdom.com.